Coming up today on The Source, a Navy vet is preparing for a legal battle he didn't think he would have to fight.
And there's a lot of news coming out of China, including another food scare. We'll have these stories and more when we come back.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on The Source today. My name is Abby Way.
And I'm Whitney Sessoms. A Navy veteran is gearing up for a battle that he says he shouldn't have to fight, this one in the courtroom. Prosecutors have slapped the Missouri man with a felony charge of growing marijuana in his home, but as Shirley Washington reports, he says he has good reason for breaking the law.
Yes, I was growing marijuana, and I was growing it for my own personal consumption.
Navy veteran Ken Unger admits to breaking the law, growing marijuana in containers in his basement. He says strictly for medicinal use.
I was happy to be able to have it because it meant that I could walk around the block twice and not be in such intense pain.
Unger says he smoked pot to ease chronic pain caused by an accident he had in 1983 while on a tour of duty in Grenada.
I was hit in the head with the crane hook from a 50-ton crane from a 1950s vintage ship.
Documents show the Veterans Administration gave Unger a 100% disability rating, leaving him unable to work. Unger was also prescribed morphine to control his pain.
I feel like I'm totally trapped. I'm not allowed to do anything for pain relief other than be a morphine addict, and I don't want to be a morphine addict.
Unger says he prefers to use marijuana for his ailment, but that's against Missouri law.
It's illegal. I mean, flat out illegal. There's no exceptions to it. We are not a state that has any kind of defense to that, as such as like a medical defense.
Green8, the Medical Marijuana Legal Defense and Education Fund, posted Unger's story on its website. The organization is helping Unger fight the felony charge against him. If it isn't dropped, Unger says he'll move on.
I'm tired of actually fighting this with the state of Missouri.
If convicted, Unger could face 5 to 15 years behind bars. A hearing is scheduled for next month.
Life can be hard growing up in rural China, but imagine what it would be like for a little boy without the use of his hands. CNN's Isha Sese introduces us to a little boy who's literally putting his best foot forward.
Oh, like any other kid his age, he's learning to read and write with his kindergarten class. But Liu is learning good penmanship with his feet.
We taught him to hold a pen with his toes first, which he could not manage initially, but he persisted and learned to write stroke by stroke slowly. I coached him after teaching other kids in class.
Liu lost his hands when he was just 3 in an accident with a high-voltage wire. Since then, he's learned to brush his teeth, wash his face, ride a bike, dial a phone, all with his feet. Liu has had to do much of this on his own. His parents are divorced, and his mother works away from home to pay the Liu's medical bills. Now he lives with his grandmother and has become a pro at handling chopsticks.
What's the most difficult point in teaching him to eat by himself?
That is to hold the chopsticks with his toes to pick up dishes.
How long did it take to master the skill?
About 2 weeks.
Despite all of his challenges, Liu's grandmother and teacher say he's confident and happy. He's popular with his classmates. He was even the star of a school play based on his life story last year. Aisha Sese, CNN, Atlanta.
Also in China, there is news of another food safety scare. This time, it's domestically consumed rice that's under suspicion. Researchers say it could be potentially harmful and laced with harmful metals. CNN's Eunice Yoon has the story.
Another day, another customer for rice seller Nian. But today, he's checking this map on his cell phone, monitoring the latest food safety concerns to hit China, tainted rice. To be careful, you should not eat rice from the south, he tells us. Eat rice from the north. It's safer. This week, the media has been abuzz with research from Nanjing Agricultural University. Scientists tested rice samples all over China and found some rice contaminated with a heavy metal cadmium.
Cadmium contamination, which this is, comes from mining and industrial development, and there are two sectors of the Chinese economy which have been booming for a long time, and they're very important.
The research was conducted in 2007 and 2008, but the fear is the soil still may be contaminated years later, though no recent studies have been done. People here are concerned about a university statistic that there's a 1 in 10 chance that the mainstay of their diet, Chinese rice, could be laced with cadmium. Cadmium, when consumed, is toxic. It's been associated with weakening bones over time. But the author of the report pointed out the tainted rice was concentrated in just a few areas and says concerns about large-scale contamination are overblown. Chinese health authorities have not yet commented on the report, but just this week they vowed to crack down harder on any food safety incidents in the aftermath of the tainted milk scandal and other past problems. China has said ensuring food safety will be among its top priorities in the years to come. Eunice Yoon, CNN, Beijing.
A Good Samaritan in North Carolina gets a new view on life after he rescued an injured dog. Turns out that dog has a very special owner. Kristen Hampton has the story.
Right here in the middle of the road was a dog who didn't stand a chance.
I knew that it had been run over, so I immediately pulled over.
Greg Stokes couldn't help but help.
I thought he was going to die right there in my arms.
At the same time,
Heather was just very upset. She kept saying, "He's not coming back."
You see, the dog Greg found belonged to this girl. He was her best friend, even before the accident.
When I'm having my bad days, my mom and dad put Shorty on my bed and just let him lay here with me.
7 months ago, a violent car crash left Heather Siebert paralyzed.
If you're on the inside, it's a confusing story.
Shorty wasn't seriously injured. Greg went around asking who he belonged to. He went here, where Heather used to go to school. Her friends knew right away. And right away, Shorty came home.
It just seems like every time something negative happens, there's something positive that brings a ray of sunshine back into our lives.
I don't know, it's a resetting of myself on the inside, I guess you could say.
From a perfect stranger to part of the family. Seems like it's all just part of a plan.
It's time to take a break, but when we get back, we're going to have news that no ECU student will want to miss.
Make sure to stay with us because we have news of a new study following the widespread trend of sexting, as well as an inside look into the lives of a few ECU students.
I have heart disease. Heart disease, of course, is the #1 killer for both men and women in this country. The American Heart Association tries to raise awareness in every single one of us, so we have a great gift here. The American Heart Association is very important in all of our lives. It's important to our university, to our medical school, and to everybody's heart health.
Help raise awareness for heart disease by coming out to the Wilson Recreation Center on April 17th for our annual Heart Walk.
The world of cell phones continues to become more complex. Now, I'm not talking about apps. Sexting is becoming more and more common.
New student-based research revealed that over 2/3 of ECU students are using their cell phones for more than just sending innocent text messages.
Makita Parker, a junior studying sociology, surveyed nearly 500 undergraduates. 64% reported sending a sexual text message, what many now call sexting.
Anything with technology and there's erotic foreplay being sent, that's sexting.
Walk across campus and you see this going on all the time. And now we know some of the time that is not just, hey, sweetie, but something sexual being transmitted to a partner.
Results also show that 40% of the time, students are sending nude photographs, and 12% of the time, a sexual video.
College students are all about alcohol and sex. And of course, this is about sex.
Parker said that sexting can benefit long-distance relationships.
Even though you don't get the physical aspect, like I can't touch you or anything like that, but there's still that sexual feeling there. You can always text them, say, I want to do this to you next time when I see you.
One student says she's been experimenting with sexting since she was 14.
I do it to stay sexually connected to my friend in Morehead City.
But it's not only for distance.
People can have lunch with each other and then go to a 2 o'clock class, and on the way to the 2 o'clock class, send their partner a sex text message.
The privacy of an individual's cell phone makes it possible anytime and anywhere.
I can be in class and we're supposed to be listening to the professor. I could be sexting my boyfriend right now and you wouldn't even know it unless I'm like lifting up my shirt or something like that.
If someone sends a topless or nude photo, they're risking the chance of jail time. If the person in the photo is a minor or the photo ends up in the hands of a minor, they both could be facing child pornography charges.
Just have to be safe and smart when it comes to technology, because it could be your best friend and it could be your worst enemy.
Parker also advises couples to talk about ground rules and safety before sexting. I'm Abby Way, The Source.
What's it like being an ECU art student? I went to the Jenkins Fine Arts Center to find out. Majors such as biology and nursing are well known for their challenges, but there's another major that has its hardships.
Really, there's I guess a lot of stresses because we're trying to meet deadlines of several projects during a week.
The life of an art student isn't just about taking 30 minutes to draw a pretty picture.
I'm only taking 12 hours a semester. It's about what I take every semester, but for every studio course you take, the teachers instruct you that you should expect at least 3 to 7 hours of work for every hour you're in class.
Dedicated art students work on their time-consuming projects at odd hours. In fact, some could be called sleep deprived.
Other times it's just working on a project till all hours of the night and pulling all-nighters and just, spending all night, waking up at actually not even finishing your work till 6 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
The time and effort that went into completing a project like this is unimaginable. Not only do students have to sacrifice sleep for their art, they make financial sacrifices as well.
And last semester alone, I spent over $3,000 on art supplies.
A financial reward does not drive art students as much as passion does.
For me, it has been a lot of conflict in what I want to do as far as what I want to do when I graduate, because, facing a lot of facts, a lot of artists don't make a lot of money.
But despite all of the sacrifices, an ECU art student's experience can still be rewarding and fun.
You meet a lot of really interesting people just from department to department.
With each project, my work gets better with each project and with each critique.
Whitney Sessoms, The Source.
Coming up after the break, we will uncover a new trend growing among men.
And are Southerners the fattest of all the Americans? We have the story after the break.
Quiero ser un ingeniero en sistemas computacionales.
Quiero ser una doctora.
Yo quiero ser licenciado y no quiero dejar mis sueños atrás.
Women aren't the only ones getting nipped and tucked. The latest data shows the rate of plastic surgery procedures is not only on the rise, but the surgeries are becoming more popular among men. The American Society of Plastic Surgeons reports that in 2010, men had some 1.1 million plastic surgery procedures. That's a 2% increase over the year before. So, what types of procedures are the most popular? Facelifts saw the biggest growth, a 14% increase between 2009 and 2010. And check this out. Ear surgeries increased by 11% in the same time period. Eyelid surgery and dermabrasion increased by 4% each.
While being active remains a staple to weight loss, research shows that Southerners are the least likely to be active. Americans in southern states and parts of Appalachia are least likely to be physically active. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention estimates in the South about 29% of adults say they don't get any exercise. States on the CDC's list of least active list are Alabama, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. In contrast, the most active Americans are on the West Coast, the Northeast, and in Colorado, and Minnesota. Nationwide, the CDC says about 1 in 4 adults say they don't spend any of their free time being physically active.
If you have been to the doctor for a cough this season, he may have recommended medicine for your symptoms. Just what's in these products? Nanette Sosa has more in today's Health Minute.
Store shelves are filled with cough and cold medicines this time of year. We decided to check with a pharmacist to find out what's in them.
There really are very few actual ingredients. What you see in this vast cough and cold area are just combinations of things as well as individual products. Decongestants, there are only 2 decongestants approved for sale. Actually, one now is behind the counter, that's the old pseudoephedrine, and the other one is phenylephrine.
Decongestants have a tendency to elevate blood pressure.
So if you're a patient taking blood pressure medication, you need to be very, very careful.
To loosen mucus in the chest, some products contain an expectorant called guafenicin. Others contain a cough suppressant.
The DM stands for dextromethorphan. That's the cough suppressant ingredient. It's sometimes called CF or cough formula. And that would usually have the decongestant, the expectorant, and a cough suppressant. The next ingredient you'll find will be an antihistamine to help dry you up. You just need to be aware that in some cases they can cause a little drowsiness.
And remember, before you take any medication, consult with your doctor or pharmacist. For today's Health Minute, I'm Nanette Sosa.
Coming up, we have the scoop on why one of the best restaurants in the world is closing.
And if you're thinking of traveling anytime soon, you'll want to hang around for a segment on traveler's insurance to find out if you really need it. Planning the trip of a lifetime, a short island getaway, winter's wrath can throw a wrench in even the most carefully made plans. From raging blizzards grounding planes to nasty colds grounding you on the couch. You may have heard of travel insurance, but wondered if you really need it? Karine Kaifa has the details in today's Consumer Watch.
Winter can throw a lot of curveballs at travelers, but if you're thinking about insurance for your trip for some added peace of mind, there's a few factors to be weighed. First and foremost, the financials.
How much do I feel I can lose without being in the hole, so to speak? For instance, can I afford to lose the price of my airline ticket if I have to cancel because I become ill?
If you're already away from home, there can be benefits too, like reimbursement if your trip is cut short due to illness, medical assistance overseas, and help with lost or delayed luggage. During unexpected delays, travel insurance can help you with hotel accommodations if you're stranded overnight, track down your checked baggage, and reimburse you for extra expenses like toiletries. But just how much is covered by your policy depends on how much you want to spend.
Obviously, a more expensive policy is going to cover more types of situations than a less expensive policy.
If you do purchase travel insurance, know what's covered before you take off, and be mindful of what you'll need should you have to file a claim. For Consumer Watch, I'm Karine Kaifa.
El Bulli, a restaurant in Spain that gets over 1 million reservations a year and has been rated the best food in the entire world, is closing down. But why?
Ferran Adrià is widely regarded as the world's best chef. At his creative hub, the experimental and controversial El Bulli restaurant in eastern Spain, he's revolutionized the very definition of what makes a meal and what is food itself. Receiving up to 1 million reservation requests a year, news that Adrià is closing El Bulli has come as a shock. From July this year, there'll be no more guests. The world's press is asking why, but for Adrià, it's not the end, but an exciting new beginning.
I sense that El Bulli will be more important in the future than it has been as a restaurant.
The maestro has announced that El Bulli is to be transformed into a global centre of culinary creativity.
This place is incredible.
in the form of a digital recipe exchange. At a staff meeting, he explains his plans for what will be known as the El Bulli Foundation. Avant-garde cooking will continue, but guests will be virtual, internet visitors to the hub of a digital empire.
This could become a vast creative network, thousands of people bringing in ideas. It is going to change the relation between creativity and society. Not cooking, but creativity as a whole. This is much more than a cooking project. It's a social project. The objective of the foundation is to continue creating and to share everything by internet.
At Madrid Fusion, the International Chefs Congress, Adrien goes public with his plans.
I owe it to people to fight for this. The easy option would be just stop. But when you see how people react, you realize it's worth it. A project that's disconcerting, it's new. No one knows if he's a chef or not a chef. And what's this foundation? This is going to breathe life in the world cuisine.
Don't miss the end of our show, where we'll meet twins with a very special connection. Supposedly, twins have a special connection. Now twin babies are so connected that they're talking their way to fame. If you don't understand baby speak, no problem. Jean Moose is here to translate this report.
If you haven't heard the talking twin babies by now, you haven't been listening. Their mom put the video on her blog. It ended up on YouTube, and now these two boys have raised baby talk to an art. But now talk has turned to what they're saying.
They're not really saying anything. They're just babbling. They're imitating each other, so one is perpetuating the babbling in the other.
Dr. Harriet Klein is an expert in speech development, but those who aren't have been supplying their own subtitles. Most people seem to think the kids were talking about socks. Or maybe they were talking about current events, a certain snake escape. Other beasts seemed disturbed by the babbling. There have been cases of twins who really did seem to develop their own private lingo. There was a documentary made about twins in California who spoke their own language until the age of 8 or so. The two didn't have much adult interaction and picked up a combo of English spoken by their dad and German spoken by their grandmother. The parents of the YouTube twins have shied away from too much publicity. Actually, it's more like millions if you count TV and web views.
I think they were talking about Libya, I think.
Someone else had the same idea in this mashup with Dutch subtitles. These two don't just imitate each other's babbling, they do simultaneous headstands, and we can only imagine what they'd do if they found that escaped cobra. As one person posted, nominee for Best Foreign Language Film. Ginimo, CNN, New York.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of The Source. I'm Abby Way.
And I'm Whitney Sessoms. We'll see you next time.